Namo tassa bhagavato arahato sama sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato sama sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato sama sambuddhassa. I'd like to talk this evening about an aspect of balance in the practice. A lot of the walking the path is staying in the middle path, and there's many different aspects to that. Being in the middle between energy and samadhi, being in the middle between the extreme wrong views. There's many different aspects. In approaching the Dhamma, it's possible easily to go off center, to go to extremes in one way or the other. Now, in recent Dhamma talks, I've talked about the nature of perception and nature of reality, different levels of consciousness, and all of this related to different realms of existence and so on. These kind of aspects, these kind of contemplations are useful to elevating the mind, taking it out of the narrow view. But there is also a balancing factor to such contemplations, and that is being grounded and connected to the body and the immediate environment. It's one of the benefits of anapanasati, of breath meditation, is that it's a meditation based on the body. So one remains grounded and connected. And although it can take you to very refined states and levels of consciousness, it has this balancing factor of being based on the body. It's possible to get into states of mind where you feel disconnected, alienated, removed from ordinary grounded reality. And that's not spiritually healthy, just as the other extreme of being entirely materialist and naively accepting the input of the senses is real, and being very limited in your consciousness is, the other extreme. You think of the image of the earth-touching Buddha. He's the Buddha, the awakened one. So he's in connection to all levels of consciousness, but he's touching the earth with one hand. So he's grounded. He's based on the earth. I think it's part of the deep spiritual malaise of modernity is that people are disconnected in our civilization from basic grounding of reality. I find that's one of the benefits of living as we do here. You know where your water comes from, you know where your heat comes from, you're connected to all these things. You know where your poop goes. All of these things are, processes that are fundamental to existence, but that highly technological urban civilization removes people more and more from that basic connection. We consider the nature of perception, and I've talked about that often how we construct some kind of a simulation of an outside world through the process of perception that we live in. And it's interesting and it kind of can become fascinating kind of intellectual game to speculate about the ultimate nature of reality and what is actually real, what is the nature of the external reality. But when it's approached like that, it is just that it's kind of a sterile intellectual exercise. It doesn't really matter for our practice or our happiness what the ontological or metaphysical nature of reality is. These are just matters for speculation that can never be ultimately settled. What matters is how we deal with the reality that we have in front of us. How are we relating to the immediate experience of being a human entity, being embodied, having these sense organs and this immediate environment, this context in which we live? Now, how do we deal with that on an immediate, moment-to-moment process? You know? The Buddha praised highly meditations based on the body as being very productive of results. This is meditations like Anapanasati or meditation on the postures or modern variants like body scanning or like walking meditation. You know? These maintain a connection and a rootedness while at the same time setting the mind free. There's a balance maintained and a continuity. There's always the danger of the mind exploring ideas and concepts beyond what's immediately experienced. Although this can be, have its place and can be useful and mind expanding, it's also always the danger of disconnecting and becoming disconnected from reality, disconnected from the body and the earth. So a meditation like the breath becomes a kind of a golden thread through the labyrinth. There always remains that continuity in consciousness. And liberation is finally attained by being present with what's immediately present in the mind, fully knowing the objects of consciousness. It's not gained by remote speculations, or theoretical considerations, or metaphysical constructions. It's what is immediately present to the mind. What is this object immediately here, now? What's its nature? To see it as dependently arisen, as contingent, as impermanent, as ultimately void. and not to let these become just empty concepts, but experienced phenomena, experienced reality. So one knows the object, and there's the unfettered chitta that just experiences and just knows, and there's the object, which is part of a chain of causation of this and that. And the immediate reality can seem very ordinary and mundane, but it's precisely in the ordinary and mundane that the deepest wisdom unfolds. It's not to be sought after in some remote realm or some exotic theory. It's something immediate here now. This object of our consciousness, whether it's a sense impression or a thought formation, whatever it might be, this object is in itself a microcosm of all reality. As above, so below. It holds within itself whatever mundane, ordinary phenomena is present in the mind. It holds within itself the totality of wisdom, if it's seen with the penetrating eye of insight. It's seen as impermanent, as suffering, and as not self. And the trick is seeing this ongoing stream of ordinary reality without coloration, without prejudice, without allowing oneself to fall into either desire or revulsion, either fear or fascination. Just seeing it its own nature as it actually is. Allowing the chitta to perform its function unhindered, open, expressive, unexpressed, just simply knowing, simply experiencing. And then everything unfolds, all wisdom unfolds from the ordinary, from here and now, from the very ordinary contents of consciousness, moment by moment. A sound, a sensation, a fleeting thought, a feeling. Each of these can become a gateway to liberation. There's an old, I think it's Japanese, it's an old folk tale, an Asian folk tale, I believe it's Japanese, I may be wrong, about the mother and the little boy, and the little boy is always curious where his father is, wants to see his father, so his mother says, well, your father lives somewhere else, but we can go see him. And so they go on a long journey over mountains and crossing rivers and a long, long road through the forest. And they end up circling around after many, many days of traveling. They end up circling around back to the same village. And the father's in a house on the other side of the village. And the boy says, why didn't we just go straight here? And the mother says, well, then you wouldn't have appreciated him. I think the moral of the story is, we seek wisdom in remote places, either, far away. Think it's, the top of a mountain in the Himalayas, or it's in another realm, it's in the Dewa realm, or else it's some abstruse, exotic, esoteric kind of ideas and theories and constructions, but it's actually right here. It's in this body, this fathom-long body. So the Buddha said that when I speak of the world, loka, I mean this body, this fathom-long body. He said when I speak of the world, in another formulation, he says the same thing slightly differently. He says when I speak of the world, loka, I speak of these six senses. And ultimately, it's really all we have is the immediate. All we have is our own mind and the objects taken by the mind. Everything else is a construction. And we'll find wisdom if we try and get behind the constructions down to the immediate nature of reality, which is nothing more and nothing less than the nature of this object here and now. I won't talk for long today. I'm running out of energy for speaking. It's been a long day.
Annamayam Dhammakataya Sadhu Karam Dharamase Sadhu 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 Anumodami